Hello and welcome to another video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at something a little bit different on this channel. For the first time ever, I'm going to be giving you consumer advice, actual consumer advice. We're going to be taking a look at this smartphone right in front of me here, which is the iPhone 10. But before we get right into that, I want us to take a quick flashback and look at the announcement of this phone back in September of 2017. Cue the music. So this phone right here in front of me will be celebrating 4 years since its launch in September of 2017. So this year in September, we're going to be celebrating 4 years of the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X, depending on how you like to call it. Let's just look at what's inside the box. First of all, you're greeted with the phone right here. This is my own personal model. So if you have a look at that, you see me here, right there. And the contents of the box are an audio jack to lightning converter, as well as a SIM ejector tool. Not quite sure if that's still original. Let's get the box out of the way. And then right here on the phone, I've had to put it on flight mode for the purpose of this video. Yeah, Face ID still works. I was on my channel earlier on just having a look at the content right there, which you should subscribe to, by the way. If you are interested in more tech videos that will be coming, subscribe to the channel. And let's put the phone down. Let's quickly go through the specs of this phone. This phone has an A11 Bionic chip and it's brand new. They claim that you'd have up to 13 hours of video playback. Obviously, since we have no touch ID button, it means we have Face ID, as this was the first change in form factor of iPhones since the beginning, since 2007. 2017 was celebrating 10 years of the iPhone, hence the change in form factor. Hence, it was called the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X according to Roman numerals. And it has, or rather had, a glass front and back and surgical grade stainless steel sides, as you can see here, still very pristine. My very own model, and it is pretty fingerprinty. This kind of glass attracts fingerprints. I happen to like what they're doing with latest models of phones, like the Samsung, the Note series, the frosted glass that they're doing, less fingerprints, so that's better. Unless obviously you keep your phone in a case, then that's a different case. Get it? The display of this phone is a 5.8-inch diagonal all-screen OLED, according to Apple, except the notch and those tiny bezels, but they're still there. A Super Retina HD display, which has HDR. It's a 2436 by 1125 pixel resolution at 458 ppi, a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, true tone display, white color display, which means it has a phenomenal color gamut. 3D touch, this was the last model to receive 3D touch. The 10s and going forward don't have 3D touch, with up to 625 nits of brightness. So according to today's standards, those numbers don't sound like a lot, but trust me, you won't even notice the difference. I mean, if you're coming from a model lower down, like your iPhone 7 or your iPhone 6 or your iPhone 8, or you haven't used an iPhone before, you won't really notice a difference in this. Right, when we look at the IP rating. It's rated at IP67 for a maximum depth of 1 meter for up to 30 minutes. This phone has a dual 12 megapixel camera setup with a wide and a telephoto camera. The wide with an aperture of 1.8, the telephoto with an aperture of f2.4. It has dual optical image stabilization, 2x optical zoom in the main camera, as well as up to 10 times digital zoom. So this phone has also a true tone flash with low sync right here in the middle of the two cameras, and has portrait mode. As you all know, everybody wants portrait mode. And this phone does a phenomenal job at taking portrait mode pictures. The next thing about this phone is video recording, right? When we look at the camera array on this phone, video recording tells you that we have 4K at 24, 25, 30, and 60 frames per second, and we have 1080p at 25, 30, and 60 frames per second. That's your video recording side with optical image stabilization for the video, 2x optical zoom, as well as up to 6x digital zoom. So you have that 6 and 10 different. You also have slow-mo video, which supports 1080p at 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second, depending on what you choose to shoot at. Obviously, the slower the better. With the front camera, if you look at the selfie camera right here, if you take a look at the selfie camera, it's a true depth camera which takes 7 megapixel photos with an aperture of f2.2 and a retina flash, which is the flash on your screen. So that the flash that they use to flash on your screen, with auto HDR at the front and portrait mode as well, along with the portrait mode effects. At launch, this phone had two storage capacities, so it was 256 and 64 gigabits of storage, which is the model that I have right here in front of me. My own model is 64 gigs. Now, moving on. Right now, since I said I'm going to give you consumer advice, I think it's a great buy. If you've never had an iPhone and you're looking to switch to a reasonably priced iPhone and you want the best experience of the OS, then definitely go for this phone. I definitely recommend that you go for an iPhone 10. Even in 2021, it is still amply capable to run all the features that you'd want in an iPhone, all the applications that you'd find in an iPhone, and it has two great cameras, by the way. If you're coming from an iPhone 6, an iPhone 7, maybe some people are still coming from an iPhone 5, then this would be an upgrade. This would be an upgrade. The change in form factor will trick you a bit at first, but you'll get used to it in a month or so if you're used to using an iPhone. So this is a great buy. And right now you'd probably get it for around 8 to 9 grand, 8 to 9,000 rands, depending on where you look. If you get a great deal, I mean, there are many factors to consider. Not that many, but it's really about the condition. If it's in pristine condition, as well as the storage capacity, because sometimes you find that the device itself still looks pristine, like it looks good, but it has quite a number of issues. Some of them you find are locked to a network, like locked to MTN, locked to South C, and some of them don't have functional Face ID. Some of them have issues, a cracked back, cameras are not functioning well, the front screen is cracked. So you find a lot of issues when it comes to buying, pre-owned models. But if you get a good one in good condition, you roughly pay around 8 to 9 grand. I won't see you paying around the 10 grand region because you're going into the 10S mark right there. So yeah, it's a great phone to get. It's a great phone to get started with if you're changing or if you're upgrading. This is something that I'd definitely recommend. So yeah, if you're looking for this particular smartphone, it goes for around 8 to 9,000 rands. If it's in pristine condition, I mean, you have a lot of factors to consider there. You have, the rails, the stainless steel rails right here, the glass front and back, the cameras, the Face ID, if it's network locked, if the iCloud is not locked. There's a lot to consider when buying an iPhone. So if you're looking for one, definitely check those guys out. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description below for you to just go straight to their pages on Instagram and just have a look at that. But as for me, this is consumer advice, right? I think this is a phenomenal phone and I've had a great experience with it so far. And I mean, I'm going to be changing phones every now and then, but for now, since this is my daily driver for WhatsApp, iMessage, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be, whatever social media network that I'm using, this is the phone that I use for that for the time being. So with that said, that's consumer advice from me. If you enjoyed this video, do consider subscribing to the channel, support the channel, like, comment, tell me which other video you'd like me to do or which other topic you'd like me to discuss. Share the video with your friends if they're looking to buy a new device. This is my take. This is my consumer advice for you. This is a great phone to get even in 2021. You don't have to go for something like an iPhone 11 or whatever the case may be. This is a great start and it's cheap. So do consider doing that. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.